I'm Zach.
And I'm Darcy. Did you know that pornography doesn't have to destroy you or your marriage? We're the parents of 8 active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we love to help people just like you.
We're here to share hope and healing as we take you through our journey and the journeys of our amazing clients to greater joy and love. Come grow with us to a happier, more meaningful life. Welcome to the Self-Mastery Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another beautiful Mastery Monday here on the Self-Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Spafford. Sometimes I feel like I should say it like the guy on like WWE. Zach Spafford. No, I think that would be fun, right? You guys would probably get really sick of that really quick, though. So, happy Monday. Happy, beautiful, beautiful day. When you're listening to this, I'm either on my way back from the beach or I've just gotten home, and it will probably have been an amazing week in Malibu. Darcy and I love going there. We try to go every year with the kids. And we go camping down at Leo Carrillo. So if you're in Leo Carrillo and you're listening to this, too late. I'm gone. But if you were here last week, hey, maybe we hung out. All right, one of the biggest issues that I think every single person who works to overcome pornography has is that they often feel like they're failing if they have any sort of setback or they make any sort of mistake in the way that they are handling themselves around pornography. So today we're going to talk about the 2 ways to ensure that you never, ever, 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 ever fail again when it comes to overcoming pornography. A guy I was working with, he told me the story of when he was doing, some sort of physical challenge, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a multi-day race, and he stopped at this home that was part of the race support. They had beds for people so that they could sleep in between stages of this race. And I honestly, I can't remember. It's a long time ago, so the details are a little bit fuzzy. But the message that I'm going to share with you is pretty clear. So he goes into this house, and they point to a bedroom, and since it's the end of the day, and he's been racing all day, he goes in, he face plants into the bed, and he just goes to sleep. Fast forward to the next morning, and his wife, who for some reason didn't sleep in the room with him, I think she was kind of up. I don't really know. I don't remember this detail, but she came in to wake him up. And as she does this, she notices that on the wall above my friend's head is this mural of a naked woman. Whoever's house this was, they just had painted... Or maybe I don't know. Somebody painted this mural of a naked woman on the wall, and it was, to my recollection, it was detailed. So imagine, some of you guys right now, you're probably thinking about yourself, and you're like, oh man, if that was me, or man, I would feel so guilty. And, maybe you're wondering how much trouble that guy was in. Well, turns out he was in quite a bit of trouble. His wife was pretty ticked. She was furious, and she was like, listen, this was not okay. I can't believe you slept in this room. She let him have it. So my friend defends himself first by saying he didn't even have any idea that this mural was here, and he had just come into the room. It was dark. He didn't even get undressed, I guess, and that he just slept in the room without even looking around because he was so tired. He'd been racing or running or something. I can't remember. This story is to me, this is one of the keys, I think, maybe one of the number one keys of the 2 that I'm going to teach you today of making your journey to overcoming pornography fail-proof. Learning to recognize what's actually problematic and what's incidental. Too often we become hypersensitive and hyper-focused on the ways in which pornography intersects our life, and this intense management of the thing that we want so badly to avoid creates a reality where we are more likely to notice it. And often we beat ourselves up over and over, reinforcing this negative reality that we live in. So just the same way that you notice, maybe, I've noticed this, right? You buy a new car, as you buy that new car, you're like, oh, look, that car's just like my car, right? You notice every car on the road that looks like the one you just bought. Your brain is constantly looking for ways to reinforce itself, and this happens in ways that are sometimes positive and sometimes valuable, and it also happens in ways that reinforce the negativity in our lives. In the case of my friend, the fact that there was this mural of a naked woman on the wall above his head was really a non-issue. It wasn't like he was in there doing anything inappropriate. He was just sleeping. And then his wife comes in and she makes this big deal out of it, reinforcing a number of negativities that seem inescapable. And I don't know what her thoughts were. I didn't ask her. I didn't have a conversation with her. I was only talking to him, and I didn't really ask this question. But I kind of imagine that she felt like, maybe like, we can never get away from this. No matter what, it's always going to be there. And we always have to be diligent. And maybe, some of that trauma that she had experienced in the process of going through the overcoming pornography struggle that they had lived through was maybe dredged up and relived in that moment. And for him, it might have been that he will never be able to do enough to stay away from this. And that even when he isn't doing anything, he still gets in trouble because of his past behavior. And maybe even that his wife will never get over this and that it's a hopeless issue. Now think about what you've felt over the time that you've struggled and what would you have thought or felt. I know that I certainly would have felt attacked for doing something that I didn't do and that I had no control over. So if you want to overcome pornography forever, you really need to be able to triage what has happened in order to understand if there is something more to do. In this case, there really wasn't anything to be done. My friend had no idea the mural exists, and as such, nothing happened and there was nothing to learn from the experience. This, in a lot of ways, could be summed up as stuff happens. And making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be won't make it better. The second thing that you can do to never, ever, ever fail again as you overcome pornography forever is to learn from each time you do choose pornography. Now, I know that sounds simple, but it's not, and I'll tell you why. First, people do not like, in fact, they really hate confronting when they act incongruously to their values, when they don't act in concert with the way that they think they ought to act. Second, we like to move on quickly and put things behind us. So let's talk about these two reasons why we don't like learning from our mistakes really quickly. You've probably noticed that when you go all in on something and everyone disagrees with you, that makes it really hard to back down. Well, the reason that is tough for most of us, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or right in that situation. I'm just saying it's really, really tough to back down. And whether you're wrong or right isn't really the point. What is the point is it's really tough for us because it makes us feel like we have been wrong, and nobody likes to be wrong. When we don't live our values, like choosing pornography when it's not part of our value structure, we see it as wrong, and we don't like admitting we're wrong. Not to others, not to ourselves. So that's what's going on when we work really hard not to confront our behaviors that don't align with our values. The second reason I mentioned there, we like to quickly move on, and that has a lot to do with the first part as well. Like, we don't like to admit that we were wrong, so we like to move on quickly, but there's also some nuance there. Running away is kind of a standard move in keeping yourself safe in unpleasant situations. Moving on from my own mistakes is a lot like running away, but it's the mental version, right? One of the key modules that I have in the membership and that I also teach in the individual coaching is called Learn Something, Move Forward. In there, I give you the step-by-step process to help you focus in on what happened, why, and how to create a game plan so that you can practice and execute that game plan for the next time that you're faced with the same or a similar situation or a similar challenge. In fact, I'm going to give you guys something. If you will write me a review for the podcast, and do it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you do your podcast, and then email me a picture of it when you're done. I will send you the video and the workbook. You can use them for yourself. Learning from our mistakes means that we never fail again because we never give up and we got something of value from that moment. And here's the thing, right? Saying that you've failed is a lot like telling a baby that's learning to walk that if they fall down, they're a failure. You wouldn't do that. You'd be a monster if you did that. Like, just imagine standing over a baby, like, screaming in their face that they're a horrible failure for falling down when they're trying to learn to walk. Like, it's kind of a comical idea, and you would never do it. Now, some of you might be listening to this, and you might be saying, well, but my husband or I'm not learning to walk. I'm making a choice, and I'm choosing poorly. To which I say, okay, yeah, you might be choosing poorly, but based on your track record, does it look like you have all the necessary skills, tools, habits, and processes to make the choices that most closely align with your values in this space? If you're listening to this podcast, the answer might be yes, probably because you've been listening to the podcast and you've been doing what I've been teaching, but there's also a chance that the answer is no, which means that, a lot like a baby who's learning to walk, you're in the process of getting together the requisite skills, tools, habits, and processes to be successful. So do yourself a favor. Stop standing over yourself and yelling at your unskilled mind, telling it that it's a failure and you stink and you're a terrible person for not succeeding at every single turn, and actually start learning from these interactions. It's going to make your life so much more successful. Learn to see what's problematic. So again, back to the two items to make sure that you are never, ever going to fail again. First, learn to see what is problematic versus what is incidental. If you come across pornography and you pick it up and you throw it away, that's not problematic. Now, if you come across pornography and you pick it up and you're like, I'm going to read through this, I'm going to see what's up, yada, 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 I'm not going to tell my wife about it, that's problematic, right? So just kind of be aware. Like, seeing pornography in a magazine isn't necessarily problematic. It might be incidental, but you have to learn to tell the difference. And then learn from your mistakes. And I know that I think that example of seeing pornography in a magazine is probably like the worst example that I could possibly give, because nobody's looking at porn in magazines anymore. We're all on our phones, but you know what I'm talking about. It might come across your eyeballs. If it's problematic, see it as problematic. If it's not problematic, if it's incidental, don't beat yourself up over it, okay? And then learn from your mistakes. That's how you never fail again. At anything, by the way. If you think about the people who are the most successful in the world, they don't look at their mistakes and missteps and the things that don't go exactly right for them as failures. They look at them as opportunities to learn how to do it better the next time. That's it. That's what we're doing here. That's what the difference between someone who fails and someone who succeeds looks like. All right, my friends, I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to the Self-Mastery Podcast. Every day, Darcy and I work with amazing men and women to remove pornography from their lives and relationships. If you're ready to take the next step in your journey, let us help you. Sign up for a consult at zachspafford.com/workwithme, and you can set up some time for you or your spouse to meet with me or with Darcy, and we can help you get started on your self-mastery journey. Thanks for listening to Thrive Beyond Pornography. If you're seeking guidance and support to overcome pornography for good and begin creating a thriving life beyond it, check out my free webinar, How to Overcome Pornography with Skills That Actually Work. You'll learn practical, proven skills guided by an expert coach who has personally overcome pornography. Whether you're getting started for just yourself or along with your spouse, Darcy and I can teach you the tools that will help you put your life on the right path for you. Be sure to check out the show notes for a direct link, and if you could take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, it would mean the world to us. Your reviews play a significant role in helping others discover the show so they can join us on this transformative journey. Thank you for being part of the Thrive Beyond Pornography community. Until our next episode, stay strong, stay focused, and keep thriving.